Hey, lovely listeners. Welcome back to the podcast. Last week was amazing. It's been such a thrill sharing stories and connecting with all of you here. It's honestly such a rewarding feeling to have this platform, to have you all tuning in, and I can't thank you enough for the support, the likes, the shares, and the comments. Tell me, please, if you're wondering something, then I'll try to share it with you here. You all really keep me going, and I'm so grateful for this community we're building together. Now, let's dive into today's episode. I've got a story for you about Fredrik, someone who left a lasting impression and a lesson that I think we can all relate to. So, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Fredrik looked at me intently, waiting for my response. I could see the tension in his shoulders, the slight furrow in his brow, as if he was bracing himself for my reaction. But instead of feeling scared or put off, I felt a surge of curiosity and excitement. There was something about him, something that drew me in and made me want to know more. "Tell me everything," I said, my voice steady and determined. He took a deep breath and began to speak. "I work for an organisation that operates in the shadows, Leah. We're not exactly on the right side of the law, but we're not criminals either. We're more like fixers. We handle situations that others can't or won't, and sometimes those situations can get dangerous." I listened intently, my mind racing with questions. "What kind of situations?" I asked, leaning in closer. Fredrik hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. "It varies. Sometimes it's corporate espionage, sometimes it's protecting someone who's in danger. We've even handled a few government jobs that needed to stay off the books." I felt a thrill run through me. This was like something out of a movie, and yet here I was sitting in a park with a man who lived this kind of life. "And what about you? What's your role in all of this?" He smiled, but there was a touch of sadness in his eyes. "I'm one of the field agents. I go where I'm needed, handle what needs to be handled. It's not always glamorous, but it's what I'm good at." I reached out and took his hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "And what happened last night? Was that one of those situations?" Fredrik nodded. "Yes, I got a call from my handler. There was an urgent job that required immediate attention. I had to leave, but I didn't want to." I felt a warmth spread through me at his words. Despite everything, he had wanted to stay with me. "And now? Are you in the middle of something?" He shook his head. "No, I made sure I was free tonight. I couldn't stand the thought of leaving you again." I felt a smile tug at the corners of my mouth. "Good, because I don't want you to go anywhere." He leaned in, his hand cupping my cheek, and I felt a shiver of anticipation run through me. Our lips met in a slow, deep kiss, and I felt myself melting into him. The world around us faded away, leaving only the two of us, lost in the moment. When we finally pulled back, both of us, breathless, Fredrik looked into my eyes. "Leah, I need to know. Are you sure you want to be a part of this? Because if you do, there's no going back." I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. "I'm sure. I want to be with you, Fredrik. Whatever that means." He smiled, a slow, warm smile that made my heart flutter. "Then we'll figure it out together. But for now, let's just enjoy tonight." I smiled back, feeling a sense of rightness settle over me. Whatever the future held, I knew that I wanted to face it with Fredrik by my side. As we walked back to his car, hand in hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that tonight was just the beginning. There were still so many questions, so many unknowns, but I was willing to take the risk. For Fredrik, for the connection we shared, for the promise of adventure and excitement. As we drove back to my apartment, the city lights blurring past us, I knew that I was stepping into a new world, a world filled with danger and intrigue. But I also knew that I was ready for it. Ready for the thrill, ready for the unknown, ready for whatever came next. And as Fredrik leaned over to kiss me goodnight, his lips lingering on mine, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of excitement and discovery. Fredrik and I spent every spare moment together, our connection growing deeper with each passing day. He began to open up more about his work, sharing carefully selected details that both thrilled and unnerved me. One evening, as we lounged on my couch, bodies intertwined and basking in the afterglow of our lovemaking, Fredrik's phone buzzed. I felt his body tense beneath me, and I knew what it meant before he even reached for the device. "It's work," he said, his voice tinged with regret. "I have to go." I nodded, trying to hide my disappointment. "I understand. Be safe, okay?" He kissed me deeply, his hands cupping my face. "Always. I'll be back as soon as I can." As I watched him leave, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled in my stomach. This was the reality of being with Fredrik, never knowing when he'd have to disappear, never knowing if he was safe. Days passed without word from him. I tried to distract myself with work and friends, but my thoughts always drifted back to Fredrik. Was he okay? Was he in danger? On the 5th day, just as I was about to go out of my mind with worry, there was a knock at my door. I rushed to open it, my heart pounding. Fredrik stood there, looking tired and a bit roughed up, but alive. Without a word, I pulled him into my arms, holding him tight. "I'm sorry," he murmured into my hair. "I couldn't contact you. It wasn't safe." I pulled back, searching his face. "Are you okay? What happened?" He hesitated, then said, "I can't tell you everything, but things got complicated. There were people after us. We had to go dark for a while." I nodded, understanding the gravity of his words. This was the reality of his world, our world now. As we settled on the couch, Fredrik's arm around me, he turned to me with a serious expression. "Leah, there's something I need to ask you." My heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "My organisation. They know about you, about us, and they're interested in your skills." I blinked, surprised. "My skills? What do you mean?" "Your ability to ride, your quick thinking, your adaptability," he explained. "They think you could be an asset. They want to offer you a position." I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. "They want me to join, to do what you do?" Fredrik nodded, his eyes searching mine. "It's entirely your choice. I told them I'd ask, but I won't pressure you. This life, it's not for everyone." I sat there stunned. Part of me was terrified at the prospect of entering this dangerous world, but another part, a part I was only just beginning to acknowledge, was exhilarated by the idea. "What would it mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "If I said yes?" Fredrik's grip on my hand tightened. Training, missions, a life of secrecy and danger, but also purpose and excitement, and... He paused, a small smile playing on his lips. "It would mean we could work together sometimes." I couldn't help but smile back, even as my mind raced with the implications. This was a crossroads, a moment that would change everything. "I don't need an answer now," Fredrik said softly. "Take your time. Think it over." I nodded, grateful for his understanding. But as I looked into his eyes, I realised that deep down, I already knew my answer. This world of danger and intrigue, of purpose and excitement, it called to me in a way I couldn't ignore. "I don't need time," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "I want in." Fredrik's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and pride crossing his face. "Are you sure?" I nodded, feeling a surge of adrenaline course through me. "I'm sure. Whatever comes next, we face it together." He pulled me close, his lips meeting mine in a passionate kiss. As we broke apart, he whispered, "Welcome to the shadow world, Leah. Our adventure is just beginning." And as I looked into his eyes, I knew that no matter what dangers lay ahead, no matter what challenges we would face, I was exactly where I wanted to be. The ordinary world faded away and a new chapter of my life, our life, was about to unfold. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But with Fredrik by my side, I was ready to embrace it all. Our story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The next few days were a blur of meetings and preparations. Fredrik introduced me to some of his colleagues from the organisation, each one more intriguing than the last. They were a diverse group, ranging from former military personnel to tech geniuses, all united by a common goal: to get the job done, no matter the challenges. The training sessions were intense. I was introduced to a variety of skills, from physical combat to advanced driving techniques. Each session left me exhausted but exhilarated, eager for more. Fredrik was by my side every step of the way, offering encouragement and guidance. One evening, as we were finishing up a particularly grueling hand-to-hand combat session, Fredrik pulled me aside. "You're doing amazing, Leah. I have never seen anyone pick this up so quickly." I smiled, feeling a sense of pride. "Thanks. It's all thanks to you and the others. You're great teachers." He chuckled, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "We are, but you have a natural talent. You're going to be an incredible asset." As we walked back to the training centre, Fredrik's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen and his expression grew serious. "We've got a job. It's urgent." My heart skipped a beat. This was it, my first real mission. What do we need to do? Fredrik explained the details as we quickly gathered our gear. The mission involved retrieving a stolen prototype from a rival organisation. It was risky, but the potential payoff was huge. We met up with the rest of the team in a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The plan was laid out, roles assigned, and we were off. The adrenaline was coursing through my veins as we approached the target location, a high-security facility hidden in plain sight. As we breached the perimeter, everything we'd practiced came into play. I followed Fredrik's lead, moving silently and efficiently, my heart pounding in my chest. The seconds felt like hours, but we moved with precision, disabling security systems and neutralizing guards without a hitch. Finally, we reached the lab where the prototype was kept. Fredrik and I worked together, our movements synchronized as if we'd been doing this for years. The prototype was secured, and we made our way back to the extraction point. As we piled into the van, the rest of the team let out a collective sigh of relief. "That was a close one," one of the team members said, clapping Fredrik on the back. Fredrik grinned, looking over at me. "But we did it, thanks to Leah." I felt a flush of pride and relief. We had done it. Our first mission together was a success. Back at the training centre, we debriefed and celebrated our victory. The prototype was safely secured and the client was pleased. But as the excitement of the mission began to wear off, I found myself thinking about what this new life meant. Fredrik must have sensed my thoughts because he pulled me aside. "Are you okay?" he asked, his eyes filled with concern. I nodded, taking a deep breath. "Yeah, I'm just processing. It's a lot to take in." He took my hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "I know, it's intense, but you handled it like a pro. I'm so proud of you." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "Thanks, I couldn't have done it without you." He leaned in, his lips brushing against my forehead in a gentle kiss. "We make a great team, Leah, and this is just the beginning." As we walked back to his car, hand in hand, I felt a sense of contentment. This was my new life, filled with danger and excitement, but also purpose and love. With Fredrik by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next, but as we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this world than met the eye. There were secrets, hidden agendas, and unknown dangers lurking in the shadows, and I was about to dive head first into it all. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. My life would never be the same again. As we drove back to Fredrik's place, the tension between us was palpable. We had just completed a successful mission, and the adrenaline was still pumping through our veins. I could feel the heat emanating from Fredrik's body, and I knew that he was just as turned on as I was. As soon as we walked into his apartment, Fredrik pulled me into his arms and kissed me deeply. I could feel his tongue probing my mouth and his hands were all over my body, caressing my skin and sending shivers down my spine. We stumbled into the bedroom, our clothes flying off as we went. Fredrik's body was chiseled and perfect, and I couldn't help but run my hands all over him, feeling his muscles ripple beneath my touch. He pushed me onto the bed and climbed on top of me, his eyes burning with desire. I could feel his cock pressing against my thigh, and I knew that he was ready to take me. But just as he was about to enter me, his phone rang. He groaned in frustration and rolled off me, answering the call. I lay there, listening to his conversation, and my heart sank. He was talking to someone about a new mission, and it sounded like it was going to be a big one. When he finally hung up, he turned to me with a serious expression. "I have to go," he said. "It's a mission that requires my expertise." I felt a pang of disappointment, but I knew that I had to be supportive. "Okay," I said. "Be careful." He nodded and kissed me quickly before getting out of bed and starting to get dressed. As I watched him, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Something didn't feel right. And then, just as he was about to leave, I saw something that made my heart skip a beat. On his dresser, there was a small box with a strange symbol on it. It looked like some kind of code, and I knew that I had to investigate further. I got out of bed and walked over to the dresser, picking up the box and examining it more closely. The symbol was intricate and complex, and I knew that it was more than just a simple code. Suddenly, I heard a noise behind me and turned to see Fredrik standing in the doorway, a look of shock on his face. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice low and menacing. I held up the box, my heart pounding in my chest. "What is this?" I asked. Fredrik's expression changed, and he looked at me with a mixture of fear and anger. "You shouldn't have touched that," he said, and then everything went black. When I came to, I was lying on the bed, my head throbbing with pain. Fredrik was sitting next to me, holding my hand and looking at me with concern. "What happened?" I asked, my voice groggy. "You fainted," he said. "I think you must have hit your head on the dresser." I sat up, feeling a wave of dizziness wash over me. "What about the box?" I asked. Fredrik's expression changed, and he looked at me with a serious expression. "I'll tell you everything," he said. "But first, you have to promise me that you'll trust me." I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. "I promise," I said. And then, Fredrik started to tell me a story that would change everything. A story about his organisation, about the symbol on the box, and about the true nature of our relationship. But just as he was about to reveal the truth, his phone rang again. He answered it, and his expression changed. "What is it?" I asked, feeling a sense of unease. "It's the organisation," he said. "They need me to come in immediately." I felt a pang of fear, and I knew that something was wrong. What's going on?" I asked. Fredrik's expression was grim. "I don't know," he said, "but I have to go." And with that, he got up and left, leaving me alone and confused. As I sat there, trying to process everything that had just happened, I heard a noise behind me. I turned to see a figure standing in the doorway, a figure that I didn't recognize. "Who are you?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure smiled, and I saw a glint of metal in their hand. "I'm someone who's been watching you," they said, "and I'm here to take you away." And with that, everything went black again. I came to, groggily opening my eyes to find myself in a dark, unfamiliar room. I was lying on a narrow bed, and there was a single flickering light bulb overhead. I tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness washed over me, forcing me back onto the bed. As I lay there, trying to clear my head, I heard the sound of footsteps outside the room. The door creaked open, and a figure entered. It was a woman, dressed in a black jumpsuit with a stern expression on her face. "Welcome, Leah," she said. "My name is Agent Thompson. I'm afraid you're in a bit of a situation." I tried to speak, but my voice was hoarse and barely audible. Agent Thompson nodded and handed me a glass of water. "Drink this," she said. "It'll help." I took a sip of the water, feeling it soothe my parched throat. As my senses slowly returned, I managed to croak out, "Where am I? Where's Fredrik?" Agent Thompson's expression remained impassive. "You're in a secure facility. As for Fredrik, that's a complicated matter." She pulled up a chair and sat down, her piercing gaze fixed on me. "Leah, what I'm about to tell you will be difficult to hear, but it's crucial that you understand the gravity of the situation." My heart raced as I braced myself for what was to come. "The organisation you think you've been working for, it's not what you believe it to be," she began. "Fredrik isn't who he claims to be either." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What do you mean?" "The real organisation I work for has been tracking a group of rogue agents for months. They've been using their skills and knowledge to run a sophisticated criminal enterprise. Fredrik is one of their top operatives." My mind reeled at this information. It couldn't be true. Fredrik, a criminal, the missions, the training, our connection. Had it all been a lie? "No," I said, shaking my head. "You're wrong. Fredrik wouldn't—" "I know this is hard to accept," Agent Thompson interrupted, her voice softening slightly. "But we have irrefutable evidence. The missions you've been on weren't sanctioned operations. They were heists, corporate espionage, and worse." She pulled out a tablet and showed me a series of images and documents. I saw familiar faces, including Fredrik's, linked to various criminal activities. My stomach churned as I recognized locations from our missions, now labelled as crime scenes. "The box you found in Fredrik's apartment," Agent Thompson continued, "contained highly sensitive information. When you touched it, it triggered an alert in our system. We've been waiting for an opportunity like this to infiltrate their operation." And that wraps up this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it and took something meaningful away. It's been amazing spending this time with you, and I'm already looking forward to next weekend. I'll be dropping new episodes every Saturday, so be sure to check back for fresh stories and insights. Thank you again for tuning in, and for all your incredible support. It truly means the world to me. Until then, take care, stay inspired, and I'll see you next time, my lovely listeners. Bye for now.